Hello, you're listening to We Watch Movies.
I'm Ava.
And I'm Jenna.
And we watch movies. So this week we watched Holidate, which came out I think a couple weeks ago. It came out on October 28th, so not a couple weeks ago, fairly recently. And it's starring Emma Roberts and Luke Bracey, and essentially it is about a girl and a guy who are very single on the holidays, and they decide to become each other's holidate, which is essentially a platonic date that you just bring to holidays. And so it's a rom-com type thing, and I thought it was going to be a Christmas movie, but it wasn't. And so personally, I thought it was really cute. I know, Jenna, you thought differently.
I can see why people would think it was cute. It just didn't really do it for me. And I don't know, I wanted at some point to dislike this movie, but I really don't. That doesn't mean I like it. But I mean, it was fine. It was a movie.
Yeah, this movie did really poorly. Well, not really poorly, but pretty poorly when it comes to, like, if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes, it's got like 40-something%. And I don't think it deserves that. I mean, I might just be a little biased because personally, one of my guilty pleasures is rom-coms. Like, the cheesiest stuff can, like, amuse me. But I thought that this movie was funny when it needed to be. Maybe it wasn't, like, particularly witty, but it was funny, I think. I think that the characters were very shippable. And I think it did what it set out to do, which I guess is, like, the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely hit all the right beats for a rom-com. I didn't find it super funny, but it was more out there than I thought. Like, I kind of had an expectation for what I thought was going to happen in this movie. But, I don't know, it was very different from what I thought it was going to be, and it had a lot of interesting plot points that I'm not sure whether or not I liked, but they definitely weren't what I saw coming.
Yeah, so I think that I might have, part of the reason why it was really funny to me might have also been because I was watching it when I was really tired. But the scene when he was in the hospital with his finger, and they kept making, like, really stupid jokes about the finger, and they were dying of laughter, that really got me, and I don't know why, but it did. And it was, like, the stupidest jokes possible, and I just thought they were hilarious.
I just felt bad for the doctor when he made an equally unfunny / funny joke and they didn't even laugh. I just felt sad.
Poor Farouk in this whole movie.
Why no laugh?
I mean, he does get a happy ending, so that's good. Which is also interesting because they had, like, I don't know if it was particularly a healthy relationship between Farouk and Susan, but it was a happy relationship, I guess, and it ended happy. So it was interesting how they showed a happy age gap relationship, because I know that works a lot in well, not a lot, it's still considerably rare, I guess, but age gap relationships are not as outlandish as they used to be. Or maybe I'll correct myself, because, like, 50-year-olds used to marry, like, 15-year-old girls, but you don't really see many age gap relationships portrayed in a nice light, I guess. And then Susan and Farouk kind of had that going on, and I thought that was kind of cool.
But, like, you don't see a lot of, like, relationship age gaps, so it was interesting to see this movie kind of talk about this, because I don't know, for a rom-com, they tried to talk about a lot of different things in modern day romance. which was also unexpected. I just thought this was going to be like a dumb holiday rom-com, but then they made a lot of statements. Not sure how many I think were like good or like important to the plot, but they were definitely there, so that was interesting.
So I know you said that you didn't like the characters. You, at least today, you said that you thought they were too mean. That's kind of what I liked about them.
Like, I didn't mind that they were, like, unlikable and kind of mean, but, like, I never really saw the change in their relationship. It kind of just happened all of a sudden, where all of a sudden, like, they didn't dislike each other, and I don't know. One of my biggest problems with this movie was the pacing. It was hard for me to believe that there was any growth happening because it just kept shooting me along, so I don't know. It was hard for me to really buy that these characters were, like, worthy of being the protagonists of the movie.
I thought they were being really cute together, like, the whole time. I don't know. I thought that they had good chemistry from the beginning, and I know they weren't really supposed to be, like, they were trying to be platonic, so any of their feelings they were, like, purposefully hiding. But, like, anytime they did anything romantic, it was like, ooh, they're gonna be in love soon. And,
like, yeah, I get that vibe from it, but it just, it didn't work for me. I don't know why.
I think that, well, so I think that Emma Roberts is a really good actress, and I think that she had really good chemistry with her co-star. I have not seen anything else that Luke Bracey is in. The only actors, or the only cast members that I recognized in this one were Emma Roberts, Kristen Chenoweth. I think that was it. I might have recognized, like, one other person, but, so I haven't seen much of any of the other ones. But I think that really what sold it for me was the chemistry between the two main characters. And I mean, yeah, it got, like, really cheesy at the end, but I kind of like the cheese.
Cheese was rather strong. I do not think someone could have taken a grater to that amount of cheese.
I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with cheese, but in this kind of movie, it's like, this kind of movie, I kind of want the cheese. But even so, this movie, I don't think it had too much cheese. I gotta stop saying cheese now. But, like, I don't like it in a movie that's supposed to be taken super, super seriously. But, like, if you have, like, a Hallmark movie type thing, then I don't really mind it as much. And I feel like this kind of fit into that genre, because it wasn't really trying to take itself super seriously, and it was just fun and cute, and that's why I enjoyed it. And also, I think that the characters are, like, pretty relatable, especially now when, like, you know, nobody's really able to have a very active, like, dating life, because everybody's quarantined and everything. So I think that that's kind of something that appealed to me about these characters, was they weren't, like, the average rom-com characters, and they were more relatable to, like, people now.
Yeah, and I didn't mind the main characters. Like, even though I didn't really like them, I thought, like, the actors did a good job, and, like, yes, they were unlikable, and I didn't, like, me personally, I didn't like them, but, like, from a writing standpoint and from, like, a movie standpoint, they were fine. They worked for the script, and I don't know, maybe I just don't like rom-coms. I don't really watch that many of them, but this movie did have a lot of cheese, and I think because it wasn't, like, a serious movie, it worked, and it was kind of enjoyable to see, like, all of this wacky stuff that just happened and all of this cheese, because if they had tried to go for a serious movie, this movie would not have been good. Like, all of the parts that I maybe enjoyed a little bit were because this movie was not taking itself seriously.
I mean, I think as far as Netflix rom-coms go, this is probably my favorite. because Netflix has really been on a roll lately about producing rom-coms, and most of them are geared at teens, and they take place in high school and something. But this has like your main character, and she's kind of like, you know, in all of the movies, it's always like, oh, she's quirky and relatable, and she's just like everybody else, blah blah blah. Or no, like, actually, correction. She's not like anybody else. She's super N-log and quirky and frumpy and, oh my gosh, I want my hot boyfriend. And then chance meetings push them together and they fall in love, blah, blah, blah. And then in this one, she like, kind of actually was. But they didn't, like, force it on you. Like, she was quirky. Well, not really quirky, but she was like frumpy, and she wasn't really like trying to. She wasn't entitled, I guess, is the thing. She didn't feel entitled to a date. Regardless, she was, you know, she was just like dealing with life, and things were a mess. And I feel like that's kind of how everybody feels right now. Just life is a mess. And, you know, they didn't have her super glammed up all the time and trying to make her like, oh my gosh, see this super, like, glamorous high school student that actually looks like she's 25? Yeah, she's actually a social outcast and she has no chance with the hot guy. So because in this one, it was like she was hanging out in her PJs. And, I mean, not to say that she wasn't beautiful, but, like, you know, in the scenes when she was supposed to be like glammed up, she was glammed up, and in the scenes she wasn't. And I don't know, I just kind of vibed with her.
Yeah, I feel like this movie like kind of avoided a few of the tropes that I expected to see and kind of dreaded, but I was happily surprised that it did try to like avoid a lot of the things you mentioned, and because it was adults and it wasn't like high school, it was also just nice to like look at a person and be like, oh, you are actually acting your age, and I don't have to deal with like looking at a 20-something playing a high schooler, and just this whole thing is super unrealistic. Like, this movie was kind of out there, but at the same time, like, in a sense, you could kind of just enjoy it and not have to suspend your belief in any way.
Yeah, and I don't think so. Obviously, all of these rom-coms always end up with some sort of like shtick, right? It's like to all the boys, she has to pretend to date Peter because her letters get mailed out or whatever. And then in like Kissing Booth, they have the Kissing Booth thing. And Sierra Burgess, they have the whole like her sociopathic catfishing. But in this one, it was the whole Holidate thing, and I personally never really heard of Holidate, but it kind of sounds fun. And I can't believe. Okay, I think it's definitely more applicable to adults, but I think they were having like fun, and I think at first they were platonic, and I think it was working, and I think it was really cute. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, I don't remember if... I think I might have said this at some point to you, but I want a movie that is like Holidate, but it's completely platonic, and I know a lot of people just heard that, and they're like, you bring shame upon the rom-com franchise while you say that, but I think it would be so fun to just see, like, two random people, like, being holidates, but, like, they get up to weird random stuff, but like we don't have to worry about them falling in love, and like there could be a whole other plot. I don't know, that just sounds fun, and because I liked the whole holiday vibe and like hanging out with someone, but only on holidays because you don't want to be that person showing up alone, and I don't know, I think that would just be a fun movie to watch. Maybe I'm alone in that, who knows?
I don't know, I think that would be cute. I think really the thing that like appealed to this whole the thing that appealed to me and probably a lot of the audience about this whole topic is like there's a lot of people who you know, right now with the holidays coming up especially, everybody's just like watching this and they're thinking about how they're alone on these holidays, or like maybe they don't have a Valentine, or they don't have anybody to go to parties with, like they just want like a date or something, and then everybody's like, ooh, holiday, that's a cool idea. And so that's something that like grabs the audience and everything. And then I mean, like, there were just like certain moments between them that were like, you could tell there was like romance brewing. And I think that they were just like super cute together, and they were like on the same wavelength about a lot of things, you know, like, because there's always like personally a lot of times when with the people that I've seen who are like relationships, or like on TikTok when everybody's like posting about their relationships, it's always super cutesy and they're like super clingy and super cute. and I feel like these guys were cute because they weren't like that. You know, they were just like, they were acting like best friends because at first they were just friends. And I feel like that's better than any of the other relationships that I've seen on TV or something. Well, not better than all of them, but like I feel like the ones where they are like friends, because I wouldn't know, but in theory, isn't your partner supposed to be like your best friend?
Yeah, I think some people have that kind of theory about that.
Yeah, so like, I think that because they had that friendship chemistry mixed in with their romantic chemistry, it was just like really cool, and I liked it.
Yeah, it was nice to see because they did, even though I didn't really like them that much, they did have like kind of like a chemistry of them feeling like real people without them being real people trademark. Like, it didn't feel like they were trying to like act that way as a character. It just like, I don't know, they just felt authentic and not like they were trying to come across a certain way to appeal to anyone. And like you said, they had like the chemistry of having been friends before, and I liked when they would go back and forth because they weren't dating and they didn't really know each other that well. So like on some of the certain holidays they would have opposing viewpoints, and it was interesting to see because generally like in other rom-coms or romantic settings, like the couples will like get into a big fight and then it'll be a whole thing, but with them it was kind of nice to just see them have these opposing viewpoints, but then at the end of the day they were like, well, that's okay, we can disagree too.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, another thing that I see a lot with like romance portrayed on television or in movies, there's a lot of like these people that I think are just like super bad for each other. And like there'll be like a guy who's kind of a jerk and a girl who's just like kind of a pushover. And like they'll get together and then they'll fall in love, and then the audience will just be like, "Aw." And it's like I feel like this relationship, though, I think that definitely, obviously, Salome had to grow through some of her problems. Same thing with Jackson. I just think he did it first. I think that this relationship was probably a lot healthier than some of the other ones that I've seen in like movies like this and stuff, and I feel like they were a lot more compatible, which is why I was rooting for them more than I have in other things.
Yeah, and I find it interesting because I feel like part of the reason why it felt a little healthier than other screen relationships was because there wasn't any expectation on them to actually start dating. Well, the two of them to start dating. Like, there was expectation of other people for the main characters to just date in general. But I feel like with them, they weren't entering this relationship to find, like, a romantic partner. It was just, I need a date to bring so my family doesn't think I'm, like, a spinster for the rest of my life. So, it definitely did feel a little bit healthier because they were just looking for, like, someone to hang out with, and they weren't expecting anything more out of that person until they actually started developing feelings for them.
Yeah, and like, so in other movies other romance movies that I've seen, when they've had like really bad relationships that like end up working, and then the audience is just kind of like, what? One of those instances in particular was Sierra Burgess is a Loser, and I don't know if you've seen that one. But in a nutshell, Sierra Burgess is the frumpy dumpy high school kid that everybody hates because she's not a supermodel. And then one thing leads to another, and she ends up catfishing this quarterback through a cheerleader girl. And then she gets mad at the cheerleader girl for helping her catfish him. And then she like ruins the cheerleader girl's high school life, but then like it's all fine because after she's revealed to be the catfish to the guy is like, oh my god, I love you.
I'm sorry, what?
That's the whole movie. Anyways, yeah, so the problem that I had with that, well, I had many problems with that movie, let's be honest. But really, it just, I think that you can't, like, I get that was the whole thing in the movie, like, she was catfishing him because he wouldn't like her in person because she's chubby. And then, so, but then, like, after she was, like, revealed to be this, like, kind of horrible person, he was like, oh my god, I love you. And that's just not how real people work. Like, personally, if I were catfished by somebody, even if they were like the hottest, most popular guy in the world, I would probably be like, you catfished me, you psycho. Which he wasn't like. He was like, you're my type. Mwah. and I couldn't like take this movie seriously because that's just like I can't. It's just like this movie, it was like so unhealthy. Like, you can't build a relationship off of something that starts that way. And then versus in Holidate, I think that they were actually like helping each other to be better people rather than just being gross human beings and like treating the other person like crap and then getting away with it in the end because it's a Netflix teen rom-com.
Yeah, and you saying that made me think of this, but I really didn't like how much pressure Sloane's family put on her to, like, marry someone and, like, be in a serious relationship. Like, I know that was, like, probably a gag, and that was probably, like, part of, like, the motivation and, like, of, like, her character in some ways. But it always rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't know, like, I think it was played too much, and after a certain point, it just got a little out of hand with how much they were, like, trying to, like, get her to find someone, because, I don't know, it just felt like they were placing her entire self-worth in her romantic relationship with someone, and I don't know, just, it didn't do it for me.
Yeah, I mean, if my parents were acting like that at me, I would be pretty mad about it, but also I'm not, like, a 20-something woman. But, I know that there are some people in the world who act like that with their kids because they really want grandchildren.
Yes.
But let's be honest, they already had 4, and I think that's enough.
Yeah.
But, so I guess they want 12 grandchildren. Jackson doesn't know what he's signing up for.
Oh no, he thought he escaped the weird family in the beginning, but he's only just getting introduced to it now.
Oh my god, see, the weird family in the beginning, that was crazy, but also, like, I mean, at first I was like, ew, like, what is this? But then also it's kind of like there are probably families that exist like that.
Yeah,
I honestly wouldn't be surprised. But it was still like, I was like, oh my god, this is so unrealistic. And then I was like, hang on, Ava, this might not be that unrealistic.
Hang on, they might be onto something here.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think. Oopsie. Okay. I think that I don't know. I think that beyond just their relationship, the other relationships in the movie weren't exactly healthy. I think that Liz and York obviously were not healthy because they kept returning to the whole like, oh, we barely know each other kind of thing.
Yeah,
and then they got engaged after like 3 months, right?
Yeah, and the whole time I was expecting there to be like some sort of thing at the end where Liz says that this really isn't working for her and like she can't be in the relationship anymore, but that never really happened, and I was kind of annoyed.
In that really dumb picture thing at the end, I would have loved this movie 10 times more if the pictures of York and Liz were like signing divorce papers.
The pictures were ripped in half.
Oh my god, it's like them in the courthouse like waving their divorce papers like, yeah, we just got divorced.
Yeah, because like literally every time she showed up on screen, there would be some moment where she was like either unhappy in her relationship or just like completely like did not know the person that she had married, and like the whole time I was expecting like at the conclusion when like they're all talking about love and like all of the things they've learned, she would like come out and say like, oh, I'm getting a divorce, and it would kind of feed into the whole like weird thing the family had about everyone needs to be in a relationship for them to be successful sort of thing, and like she's denying that, and like I don't know, it just felt like something that they completely dropped at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and then there was like Abby's relationship, and I don't remember her husband's name because he's irrelevant. But so I think theirs was handled well because, you know, she was really stressed out and he was really stressed out and everything, and that kind of caused problems for them, but they like talked it out like adults, you know? I mean, they didn't really show us that, but they kind of did. And I think that was handled well with how they how they resolved their conflicts and how they ended up just hanging out and rebuilding that relationship and taking some time for themselves, because they had those pictures in Vegas, I think it was, at the end.
I think it was Vegas.
Yeah. But I liked their relationship. I liked the main relationship. I think that the mom and Wally at the end was really stupid.
Yeah, that was kind of a stretch.
He was okay. I'm sorry, but if my sister comes to my house for Thanksgiving when I'm like 50 something and brings this random guy that I've never met and she didn't even know his name, and he comes over to my turkey and goes, "It's okay, I always liked my meat crispy." I don't think I would literally. Okay, yeah, I would kick him out. Honest to God, I would kick him out.
This movie had so many like innuendos and like weird like relationship pickup lines, and like that's honestly like 50% of this script. So like if you're into that, then just watch this movie, take notes I guess, but don't take notes because it was interesting. Like I don't know, just like I'd be watching this movie and then they'd say something and I'd be like, oh, I see what you did there, and then the next thing someone would say, it's the same deal, and I was like, oh my god, are you guys speaking like in your own language here? Is this the true language of love? Oh my god.
But okay, you know what I really didn't like?
What?
You know Jackson's friend. I really did not learn his name. Neil, I think it was. That was his friend. At the golfing place or whatever. I didn't like that he was filling in the role of gay or black best friend, which it's like the same thing with black best friend, gay best friend. black gay best friend. It like comes up in like every teen movie or rom-com or something. There's always that one person that like is just there for comic relief, and it's like I didn't like his character. I didn't care about his character. I mean, I get that Jackson needed some friends. He needed somebody to be like on his side so that we could have scenes with him or whatever. But I just didn't like him. And then I also didn't appreciate his costume at the Halloween party. He was a costume character. I'm sorry, he was not Black Panther.
Yeah, I'm pretty glad that you brought that trope up, because I kind of noticed it too, and that's really just a trope that needs to just stop, because it doesn't do anything any good. And yeah, like, I don't want to say I dislike this character, because he was like one of the few non-white people in the movie, but it was very clear that they really only needed him for certain things. But then they just didn't even write him well. Like, he wasn't a real person. He was just whatever the plot needed him to be in that moment. And yeah, his costume was just... no.
Yeah, and I think... see, he also played, like, the same kind of role in To All the Boys I Loved Before. He was just, like, the male love interest friend. You know? And it kind of makes me sad, because they always have that one, like, it's always just, like, the main character and then their black best friend. Whereas I think that there should be, like, more... I think that there should be, like a rom-com, and they should do it with, a mixed race relationship. Because I can't... I mean, they probably exist, but I haven't seen any, like, mainstream rom-coms recently that was a mixed race relationship, which, like, I know is, like, kind of taboo to some people, but it's still, like, just as important to be on the big screen. Because, like, I've seen more LGBT rom-coms than I have mixed race rom-coms, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, like, I would just like to see any rom-com that isn't straight white man meets straight white girl the entire time, because we have so many of those, and it's important to just have representation across the board, because any taboo that people might feel for any of that isn't really valid at this point. Everyone kind of deserves to have their own story, and it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, like, I mean, in this one, you did get that age gap sort of relationship kind of there, which I liked. And then, you know, there's rom-coms like, well, I don't know if this is technically a rom-com or like a romance drama, but, you know, like Love, Simon or something that's, I think it fits into the romance drama genre, I guess.
I think so.
But, like, there are several movies like that and everything, but I haven't seen one where it's just, like... You know, I haven't seen one where race or sexuality was just a normal thing. You know, like, every time they have, if it's, like, a gay relationship, they're like, hey, guys, do you remember or do you recall? This is a gay relationship.
Yeah.
Or, like... like, you know, it's not like they don't paint it as normal. They're like, because I mean, the representation is great and we love to see it, but it's always like that's the main premise of the movie. Whereas in something like, you'll have a movie where it'll be like a straight romance story, and they have to have some other twist in it. But then for some reason, when they have a gay romance story, there doesn't as much need to be like a twist in it, because the twist is that they are gay, which is kind of weird. Like, it's normal. Like, it's not like that. It's not, you can't like build a plot off of just that.
No,
you know?
like gay stories and just stories with like people who are people of color or black should not just be built on the fact that they are not I don't want to say like normal, but like they don't fit like the usual that you see in those films, because if we always make movies like that, we'll never get anywhere to the point where representation and diversity are the normal and those are just accepted. Like, we'll never get there if we always make a big point of saying this movie is different because we have this, and that doesn't do anyone any good. And I would really like to see more rom-coms just try something different and do a good job of it and actually care about the representation that they're bringing to different people.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you look around at, like, the internet now, like, if you look at TikTok or YouTube or something, or just like, your regular community, you'll probably see some mixed-race relationships, you'll see probably some age gap relationships, you'll see LGBT relationships, and it's normal. I mean, obviously there are some people who are very close-minded and don't believe that it's normal and don't like it, which is stupid. Shame on you.
Meanies.
Meanies. But you know, and then when you see it on the screen, people like freak out about it. And not to say, I'm not talking about when people are freaking out like, oh my god, they did representation in this movie, this is amazing. You know, that's great. Like, obviously celebrate that kind of thing. But when the entire when a filmmaker is like, oh, I'm gonna make this movie, and the only thing interesting about it is that there's going to be diverse representation, that just kind of bothers me, because that's not how they're supposed to be. Yeah, that's not how you build a story. And then it's kind of like, I guess the opposite end of the spectrum would be, or I don't know if it would technically be the opposite end of the spectrum, but like queerbaiting or something.
I was about to bring that
or
up.
I think even now, like, race baiting is a thing.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening, because I was gonna bring up queerbaiting too, because I was going to make a joke when you said, like, the only reason I'm going to make this movie is because of diverse representation. I was debating chiming in saying, yeah, but I would totally watch a movie if that was all it offered me anyway. So I'm really glad that you brought up the baiting, because it's totally true that if someone is looking for representation and they hear that a movie has it or potentially has it, because baiting is fun and interesting, woo, but it's totally true. If someone hears about it, they'll watch that movie anyway, and then that calls into question the actual, like, validity and quality of the representation and the intention of the people making these decisions of why did they want to include this representation. Was it because they just know that these people exist and deserve to have their own stories, or because they were trying to get more people to watch the movie, or they just thought it would be niche or interesting to have different people in a movie?
Yeah, and like, see, obviously a lot of people hate queerbaiting because that's basically the same thing, except they don't actually commit, you know, because if they had if they have a movie that is completely based around the idea that, you know, the two main characters are gay, or that one of the main characters is black or something, if that's the only premise, then there are going to be people who are going to go to that movie and they're going to be like, yeah, representation, and they're going to go and they're going to be like, okay, that movie was kind of meh. And then they're going to be disappointed. Or if there are movies that are, or TV shows that are, like, advertising as if they have a gay relationship or a mixed race relationship or something else, then people are going to watch it hoping for that representation, and then that representation is not going to be there, and they're going to be sad.
And then on top of that, you also get instances sometimes of, like, gaslighting to further disprove any notion that someone had about what they thought was going to happen in the movie. So then it just further puts people at a disadvantage for seeing what people wanted them to believe. And I interrupted, but yeah.
There's also, okay, so you know how Disney has put in has Disney / Pixar has started putting in like a little bit here and a little bit there. Like, I get that they're doing those in the background because they're a family company and they're trying to ease it into it because they have a lot to lose if a lot of people get mad about something, which is stupid. I mean, people shouldn't be getting mad about this stuff. But like, I get it. But I think that, you know, one of the examples was in Onward. They had a lesbian police officer, which and they treated it so normally, you know, and it was just like a part of the universe, and it was just like neither of the characters batted an eye. They were just like talking about something completely different, and it was just the fact like that person was just that person was just gay, and it was okay, and it was fine, and that wasn't the only thing about that character. That wasn't that character's only substance, you know? Even though it was a side character, you know, she was giving advice, and she was really, like, that's just one of the things that stuck out to me about that movie. And there have also been other examples in, I think they also did it in, like, Finding Dory or something. But so Disney has been working in, more representation like that, which I really appreciate. Still, obviously you want the starring role to be that, but you don't want their only substance to be in that they're filling a diversity role.
Yeah, both words work. But yeah, like, I can definitely appreciate baby steps, even if the reason that they're only taking baby steps is kind of stupid. I can logically understand why they're doing it in the way that they're doing it, but I will patiently / not so patiently wait for the day in which they actually create a story that is not just a supporting role, but it's the actual movie. But until then, we'll keep watching other movies and talking about why this should happen anyway.
Yeah, digression aside, Holidate, I think it was really did. I think it did really well in terms of, you know, diversity, and they had, you know, they had several different cultures represented there. I just didn't like the whole black best friend trope. I didn't like that the only black character was there just for comic relief.
And just to support one of the main characters in a way that honestly wasn't even that helpful.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think they could have just given his character way more substance, you know? And I know that he wasn't a main character, but he could have had more substance. But still, it's just, I think that was, like, pretty much the only thing that actually bothered me about this movie. Because, you know, it was supposed to be a comedy, so they were making those jokes, and I think it was just, I think that this movie was really fun, and I'm probably gonna watch it again on Valentine's Day when I'm alone. But I honestly, I think this movie did a really good job of, you know, representing just life now, even though it wasn't technically during COVID times. It was still, like, relatable, and it was fun, and it was cool, so.
Yeah, I wonder how a holiday would work during the times of COVID.
Well, theoretically, you're not supposed to be having parties anyways.
Well, like, obviously, like, when you're not having parties, but, like, there's still that idea of, like, being alone on a holiday and wanting to be around someone, even if that was, like, virtually, because I'm not encouraging people to randomly meet up with other people. Like, no, stay inside, don't break quarantine. But, like, I don't know, just a lot of virtual dating and social media for romance has just increased in general, even without COVID, so I wonder how the pandemic would affect the plot of this movie.
You know, when the movie first started, I kind of thought it was taking place during quarantine because she was talking about working remote. But then it was like, not. I was like, oh my god, remote.
Oh, how things change.
Anybody says working from home now, it's just like flashbacks. Remote learning, anybody?
Oh man, how we love this pandemic.
It's gonna be like 15 years from now, and we're gonna be like doing some job, and our boss is gonna be like, we're gonna be offered a position there and be like, yeah, you can work remote for this. We're gonna be like, no,
No,
I refuse.
never again.
Oh my. Yeah, but so that was. Otherwise, I think it was pretty much, it could take place like any time period, but not any time period. But like it could be 2019, could be 2021 if we're wishful thinking. But I'm really just waiting for somebody to make a mainstream movie where they're all wearing masks. Because I know there are like indie projects, like really indie projects that are kind of gonna happen eventually. Where like it's taking place during 2020, like in the now. But it's like, this is a pivotal year. Like, people are gonna be learning about this someday, and I feel like the only way that this is gonna, like, get its actual, like, movie representation is in, like, years when somebody wants to make a throwback movie.
Yeah, but, like, you saying that, I know, I watched The Amazing Race, but I watch it 2 nights after it comes on, so I have to watch it through on demand. And you can't skip all of the commercials, unfortunately. So I see a lot of commercials for network television, and they're all carrying on, like, their storylines are during the pandemic. Like, I know, like, Superstore is, like, taking place, like, in the beginning of the pandemic when, like, everyone's, like, really confused as to what's happening, and there have been some funny bits that I've seen. But, like, I know, like, All Rise and, like, a whole bunch of, like, the sitcoms. Like, there are some stories that are just going on right now during the pandemic. It was so weird to see, like, a small portion of, like, the show This Is Us was on, and it was 2 people, like, in the hospital because, like, a wife was, like, pregnant and they were both wearing masks. And I was like, whoa, now, this is a little too real for me.
That's really interesting, because, so I don't have cable, so I don't get normal commercials. So I don't really see that. I only end up seeing, like, what airs on Netflix or what comes on, when I watch on the CW app. Because I know that the shows that I've been watching have had their storylines just continue, just in a different universe, I guess. Like I've been watching Supernatural, and they didn't do the pandemic at all, which I know that, like, they have, like, 2 more episodes. 2 more episodes. And they filmed all of the episodes beforehand, I believe, before they were actually shut down. But they still have the entire story taking place in a not COVID universe, and I think that's been happening with a bunch of other shows too. But also there are a lot of shows that just haven't been, like, airing too, I guess. But they're starting to now again, or they've been starting to, I guess. But there are some that still are, like, awaiting to start their next season or whatever, or have been delayed or something. And so there's a lot of things that they're not working the masks into, or they're not working the pandemic into. So it's really cool to hear that they actually are doing that in some scenarios.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird to see, because on the one hand, you're used to seeing it, so seeing it in an on-screen reality just feels normal, but then your brain kind of wakes up for a moment and you're like, wait a minute, they're also going through this right now. So I don't know, it's interesting to see, and as more and more shows go back into production right now, or were in production, it'll be interesting to see, like, how they adapted to the pandemic and whether or not it got worked in or not.
I feel like a romance story set in the time of COVID would be really interesting, because you can't have, like, that passionate kiss, or like, they can't be, like, super close together and everything. And, you know, there have been, like, I've heard some romance songs about the pandemic where they're like, oh my gosh, I love you, but you're 6 feet apart from me.
Wait, really?
I've heard a couple, and yeah, that's exactly how they go. That 100%, that's verbatim how they sing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I feel like that could be an interesting take for a story. Like, you know, if you're trying to do your weird little romance shtick, that could be a good direction to go in.
Yeah. Love in the time of Corona.
That's a good name, too. Oh my god.
I totally stole it from Love in the Time of Cholera, Ava.
Oh. That's why it sounded so good.
I came up with that months ago and I haven't had the proper audience to tell anyone.
But, like, that could work, though.
It could. Someone take notes.
We keep coming up with, like, genius ideas, but nobody's listening to these, so it doesn't matter.
We need to get on social media. Can I start a Twitter or something?
Oh my gosh, yes. If you made it this far into this video and you want us to start a Twitter, I don't think I can stop Jenna at this point.
Well, I don't know how to Twitter, but like it'll be an adventure. Maybe Instagram.
Both.
Everywhere. We're coming to your small screen soon.
Coming to your Twitter feed. Coming to a Twitter feed near you.
There's no escaping us. We're gonna take over.
We should get a TikTok.
Oh my god.
Well, anyways, guys, I don't think we're really in a state to continue this episode.
Anyway, yeah, Holiday. It was fun. It was a rom-com. Ava liked it.
I did like it. And if you made it this far, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Make sure to like, comment. You can comment about how much you hate us, or comment about how much you love our talking nonsense for an hour. You can comment requests for like future movies, like if you have any recommendations of things that are coming out soon, or something like that. We'll definitely look into it. Also, we have started making videos with our faces in it. I know that's unheard of, totally insane. So those should be coming out every Sunday. Unless one of us screws up, it's probably going to be my fault.
Oh no, it'll be mine.
It'll be both of our faults. It'll be a mutual fault.
Okay, I can agree.
Yes, so we post new podcasts every Wednesday, other videos every Sunday. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe, share with your friends. And we'll see you next week. Okay, bye.
Bye.